Hi, I'm Tamara, and this is TELUS Talks with Tamara Taggart. Hi, everyone. Today, I am speaking with Jen Bennett. Jen is the technical director at the office of the CTO for Google Cloud. And Google is pioneering an incredible number of innovations in sustainability. And, we have Earth Day coming up here. And I'm really excited to talk to Jen about how business owners can make their companies more sustainable. Jen, thank you so much for being here. I guess the first question really is what does it mean for a business to be sustainable?
Most people, start by thinking about climate change, and that's sort of what they associate with sustainability. But I think probably a really great place is to start to ground ourselves in the UN's 17 SDGs, or Sustainable Development Goals, because then you start to realize that sustainability goes well beyond any sort of environmental. It touches on societal, issues like racial equality and living wage and health and well-being. And it's really quite broad, but to truly be sustainable, we have to start seeing our ecosystem as a complex ecosystem. And I think that's really important. So a great place to start.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting, Jen, because I use Google every day. I guess I never really thought about who's behind my search engine that I'm using all the time. So can you talk about what your job is, what you're doing to help with this mandate that you guys have made?
I'm able to work closely with our groups throughout Google who are really pioneering a number of approaches and technologies to solving sustainability. I work closely with our chief sustainability officer, who's looking at, how do we as Google continue to move the needle. This is really our third decade now of really trying to tackle climate action. Our mission is really to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible. And so I think, if you think about more broadly, our mission is really founded in sustainability. And that's something that I think is really important for businesses to understand, is that sustainability is important, not just for the climate. Of course, that's important, but it's really important for resiliency of business as a whole. We want to make sure we bring the ecosystem along with us as well and enable others too.
When we talk about sustainability, I'm wondering, what is the benefit for business owners to focus on sustainability? What's their benefit?
Those who invest in the future are those who will come out of these, major events more resilient. And so if we think about sustainability as business resiliency, as, minimizing business risk, I think the pandemic showed us very clearly that our supply chains, our global supply chains, can at times be quite fragile as we think about all of these changes, the disruptions that we're seeing, whether it's due to a pandemic or whether it's due to flooding or whether it's due to these, crazy sort of weather patterns that we're seeing. This is sort of our new normal now, is being able to adapt, being agile. This is all part of sustainability. And so as you think about why it's important for every business, it's because our future depends on it. The small to medium businesses, the ones who've been hit really hard during this pandemic, those who were able to pivot their business models, be able to offer services through e-commerce, and have supply chains that they could, agilely move. This is what we've seen has really created that resiliency. And it's really at the foundation. Sustainability is key to all this.
Is now the time to focus on it? When so many of us feel in crisis, whether we're at home in our business, we're in crisis everywhere, it seems.
I think we are. Many of us are in crisis. I think there's also some really great studies that suggest that, investment in infrastructure, which is what's going to be required to move from where we are today with our energy sources to where we need to be. Those times of crisis are the times when we invest in our future as well. If we go back throughout history, this is what we have seen. And so, there've been plenty of studies now that show if we can invest, whether it's stimulus package money, whether it's, other, investments from investment banking firms, we've done our own, one of the largest sustainability bonds, $5.75 billion. This is, there's a lot of investment happening. And if you could take advantage of that investment and start to, bring that into a more resilient, more sustainable ecosystem, this is the time. We tend to, during crisis, we tend to focus on stopping, literally stopping the bleeding. But actually, if we can look at it as opportunity to invest and really take the opportunity, there's never a great time to redo infrastructure. We've seen this time and time again throughout history. But if we have investment now, it's the time to invest in making those shifts. And this is, I think we're seeing through a number of studies that job opportunities, if we put the right investment in place, can really help move the needle.
What you're talking about is something that I haven't really had a conversation with anyone about before. It's like this, taking this moment where we are. And I mean, so many people I know are sick of the word pivot. Like we have to pivot. But it is true, right? We're all trying to learn how to do that, whether it's with our kids at home or how we're schooling, how we're working, how we're staying safe. There's a lot on the table, but how do we continue to have our businesses thrive into this new path forward, really, right? We're going to have to do things differently.
Yeah, I don't think we can afford to delay. I think, there have been plenty of studies that show that we're running out of our window of time to take action because you can't just flip the switch, right? I mean, it's not like all of a sudden we shut off all of our grids and we decide, okay, now we're switching. That's not how it happens. And so, even if you look at our history and you start 2007, where we were carbon neutral, and what I mean by carbon neutral was we were running operations, but offsetting with a lot of high quality offsets. So whether that's reforestation programs or others, by move the clocks forward, we started to buy more and more renewable energy. Our investment in power purchase agreements, along with other corporate investments in power purchase agreements toward renewable, has really brought the cost of renewables, whether it be wind or solar, down so that now it's much more affordable. So we've really helped incentivize, through this action, this reduction in cost. We know we also are seeing hope in the future of technologies, things like green hydrogen, long-term storage, solutions for renewables. We see, advanced geothermal. There's a number of technologies that we're excited about, but they're going to need investment, just like the renewable energy, the wind and solar needed investment, to start to bring the cost down, to get that economies of scale. And so we're committed to doing that. I know a number of other companies have been inspired to do similar things. And so we're really excited about the future, but the future's now. Like, we have to invest now in order to get to where we need to be. I know a lot of your audience are small to medium business, and you think, what can I do?
Yes.
Everybody plays the role. Everybody plays an important role. Whether it's looking at your carbon footprint, can you move some of your workloads to a public cloud that, like Google Cloud, that's, clean energy, so you immediately, instead of running servers in your IT organization maybe in a private data center that isn't as green, you can immediately start to have an impact by moving those workloads to a green cloud. All of these things, at least if you're starting to think about these things and looking to the peers and the leaders in the world, you can start to see how you can make a small your piece of the impact, which is really important.
You said there are things that we can all do. How much, though, is the responsibility of our governments, do you think? Like, is that where it starts?
I think it's going to take us all. So yes, governments play a key role, and policies and how policy needs to evolve to meet the need is critically important. It takes large enterprises, corporations like the Googles to help inspire, but also to help change, for example, how renewable energy is, how the investment in renewable energy is occurring. But it's going to take everybody. I think the thing that I have been so inspired by is the creativity of people when you allow them to help tackle the problem. So it's not one person, it's not this is a complex ecosystem. So if we think that one thing is going to fix it, we're in big trouble, because the complex ecosystem really requires us to understand, to collaborate, to work with researchers and scientists and governments and companies and individuals, and everyone needs to contribute. I'll give you another example of a customer that we've been working with, UPS, a large, logistics company. I think when they first came to us, they said, how can we better manage cost of the logistics that we have? It's a complex logistics. So we looked to some of the algorithms that we've developed. We're all familiar with Google Maps and the ability to navigate from one place to another. We looked at some of those algorithms and we were able to work with them to really optimize some of their routes. And that saved them quite a bit of money, but more, probably just as importantly, saved them a tremendous amount of fuel in their fleet. So when you think about sustainability, it can also be really good for your business because it can also hit your bottom line just as much as it can and make sure that you're resilient and that you're doing what's good for the planet. So I think, all too often we get caught up in this black and white world where we feel like I can help with sustainability, but at the cost of my business. But actually, I think what we're going to find is this complex ecosystem means a win-win in many cases.
What are some things that we can consider when we're looking at businesses that we want to buy from or work with or whatever it might be?
You will find that there's a lot of things we probably already do, whether it be, recycling programs, whether it be, food waste, and how do you manage your food waste? I mean, I have a young child and I'm constantly saying we don't waste food. I mean, I think this has been like decades long parenting, right? But actually that's sustainability, right? Because food insecurity is such a huge problem in our world today, and it's only getting worse. And so everything we can do, to also educate the next generation is super important. When you talk about how can we be educated about the businesses we're buying from, I would say do some homework, right? Understand what their sustainability practices are, and again, remember 17 SDG goals, it's very broad. So how you think about their practices and what they're doing in terms of their recycling. Do they have recycling programs in place? What is their waste diversion strategy? And how are you seeing that show up in the business that you're as you're there? Many people are now starting to advertise their sustainability goals because consumers are becoming much more attuned to ask the questions and to look for those types of products that report sustainability. I think we just all have to be more educated as we move forward.
Mm-hmm. You light up so much when you start talking about this. Like it just comes right through how passionate you are about this, whether we're business owners, small, medium, large, or consumers, right? Like, where am I going to go for dinner? Where am I getting my groceries from? What am I ordering online? How is it getting here?
It's been a journey for me as well to look at how do I live a sustainable life, and what are my food choices, and how is that, I think we just need to continue to be educated. If you look at, for example, agriculture and the real challenges that we have around agriculture, I think when you go and buy a product, sometimes it's out of convenience, but you have multiple choices. So how educated are we when we're buying those? And I can tell you that the more we as consumers care, the more the consumer product goods companies are going to care, which inherently is then going to shift it, down. And we know that studies have shown that more and more consumers are caring more about sustainability because they're seeing what's happening to our planet. They're seeing the changes that we see in the oceans when we go, for those people who are very fortunate to be able to go and do, scuba diving or snorkeling, and you're starting to see the change in our reefs. They're seeing the changes that are occurring on landscapes around the planet that, where we're having this massive flooding and devastation, or where we're having considerable air quality issues because maybe, the burning that we're doing. The list goes on, but I think it's really incumbent upon all of us. And I think that's the key piece. But be inspired by those around you, be inspired by the people who are, by the companies who are taking big steps, and know that there's many coattails you can ride on and for ideas, and that there's people in your organization who I guarantee you have great ideas.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And educating yourself is actually easier now than it's ever been, right?
For sure. I mean, there's always a challenge. I think plenty of education, read, be inquisitive. This is something that I think, at Google, we really feel is sort of the ground truth, which is ask if that makes sense, and then double click into first principles. And really, we can't all be scientists, and we can't all be, particularly as it relates to climate change and experts, but we can read and we can learn and we can become educated, and ask if it makes sense to you. But there's little changes, there's big changes, they're all going to matter.
Okay, last question. What is the first step a business owner could take today or tomorrow to start moving towards sustainability?
I would say the first step you need to take is, one, become educated and set some goals, right? So, whatever those goals are, what's most important to your business? What's going to really help you in your business as it relates to sustainability? And then start to see how you measure to that. Because often what we find is that a number of companies don't have the data today to know how to measure to their goal. And so that starts you on a track. Well, how do we get that data? And you start to make progress. But really, it starts with, one, inspiration, and two, setting yourself a goal. And it's just like in your personal life, right? If I'm going to set a goal, I'm going to pick something that I want to do for the next year. And that's what I would say. Get started, set a goal, because it's a great step on the journey.
You are so inspirational. So there you go. You were very inspirational as we move forward in this. And you're absolutely right, Jen. It's been a pleasure learning this from you. I really appreciate your time. I really do.
I really appreciate the time. And thank you to all the listeners. Tamara, you have been wonderful. And I thank you for raising this awareness. It's so important, not only for our planet, it's important for all of our businesses. We've got to get to resiliency. We've got to get to sustainability. This has to be one of the top priorities for any business.
I agree. Thank you so much, Jen. And you can follow Jen on Twitter at Jen Bennett. That's BENNETT 16, and learn more about the work Google is doing at sustainability.google. Thanks, Jen.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to another episode of TELUS Talks with Tamara Taggart. Be sure to subscribe so you can join us every Tuesday for another conversation. You can also check out our website, telus.com/podcast, and subscribe to our YouTube channel at TELUS Talks.